And GOAT is a question, is a thing that goes around a lot. A lot of people are always talking
It
about
does go
GOAT.
around a lot.
I think that GOAT is probably the most overused term in sports. Like GOAT is the sports equivalent of SMH, shaking my head. Like, because if I see one more person shaking their head SMH on social media, I'm gonna shake something. It's just it's bad. But so LeBron James,
You know
LeBron
what?
James,
Before you even talk, man, I hate this because
I hate it too.
you know what I hate the most is we probably gonna agree on a big chunk of this,
I'm pretty sure.
but there's gonna be a part we might disagree on. So I'm gonna let you say your piece. We're gonna get stuck into it.
You know what? I think I want you to say your piece first.
You want me to say my piece?
Yeah, I want
Okay.
you to say your piece first.
I'm not gonna get. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna get right into it because here's the thing, man. There's two sides to this.
Mhm.
There's what he said and whether or not people feel like he had the right to say it.
Mhm.
So first, and for me, they're only slightly tied together because anybody could believe they're the best. You just got to go out there and prove it.
Yeah.
On that note, this is being compared a lot to Michael Jordan and the speech that he gave in his third championship when everybody was like, "Are you the GOAT? You know you the GOAT, right?" And
Yeah.
he wouldn't come out and say it.
Yeah.
And people saying, well, in private, he would say he was the GOAT and he was just playing politics and all that other stuff.
Yep.
Not every, but most great performers think they're the best at some point while they're performing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's different to proclaim that you're the best.
Mm-hmm.
Because you thinking you're the best is basically what you need to go out and be the best.
Mm-hmm.
If you go out thinking somebody's better than you, you might perform like second best on default and then fall from that. If you go out trying to perform better than anybody's ever performed ever, you might have a chance to be the best. So you need to go out with that mentality every night and you need to really believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And if LeBron really believes that, kudos to him.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
However,
mm-hmm.
let's put this in context real quick, just in terms of Mike, who is the GOAT. Michael Jordan was thought to be the best player in the league long before he won his first championship. The Chicago teams was I'm talking about by his peers. Larry Bird said he's better than me. Larry Bird is widely regarded as the greatest trash talker of all time. And before Michael Jordan won anything, he was like, nah, he's too much.
He said he's God in basketball shoes.
God in basketball shoes. And he said that in a couple of different ways. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? He didn't just say that once offhand. He's like, nah, y'all don't get it. And remember, to keep this in context, these guys lost to Michael in that USA basketball thing.
Who?
Michael is a 21-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
A bunch of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they knew this was coming.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, this guy is different. And the Chicago teams not only were so bad, but also the Eastern Conference was filled with tremendous talent. I mean, people who had won championships would win multiple championships. People who should be going deep into the playoffs every year, Hall of Fame players on several teams, like well-coached teams. The East was absolutely stacked, and the Bulls were absolutely trash outside of Michael Jordan. People forget, it wasn't just Scottie who came over. That roster got shaken up from his rookie year to the year that they got Scottie. You know what I mean? Charles Oakley, Bill Cartwright.
Yeah,
like,
it was 87, 88 was when Scottie and Horace came.
Right.
And Mike's rookie year was 84, 85.
Right. So they went through a lot, and then, coaching changes, all that stuff. So the Bulls were not built to win, and then they got Michael. They were horrible. They got Michael, and then they started building to win from that point on. So these guys were getting dominated by Michael Jordan. And then when he was winning those championships, it looked like he couldn't be beat. That's another thing people don't understand. Everything was the Golden State Warriors, but it was just Michael. Like, yeah, Scottie's a great player. No question. Scottie's a great player. But it wasn't like Magic and Kareem. Magic and Kareem were both MVP guys. They were both Mount Rushmore guys. And it was even Kevin McHale, Larry Bird, and Parrish.
James Worthy was amazing.
James Worthy, not a slouch, right? Yeah. Scottie Pippen, offensively, he wasn't at his peak when they won those first three championships. He got better and better as time went on. He was a guy who was great at defense. and offensively was more of a system guy than a guy who would dominate you. He didn't have like a sick handle. He didn't have a sick 3-point shot. He was a guy who was solid offensively, benefited from a great system, being with Michael Jordan, and was excellent defensively. Deserves all the credit he gets, one of the greatest small forwards of all time. But they were scared of Michael. Michael was the engine that drove everything. So when people asked him that question, they weren't saying, well, maybe this guy's better than you. The difference between Michael Jordan and the second best player in the league at that point was massive. And everybody knew it. The media all knew it. The players all knew it. The fans all knew it. LeBron. The difference between LeBron and the second, third, fourth best player in the league is much smaller than Michael Jordan. Much smaller. And most importantly, he's not even winning that much. He's never dominated the league from a winning standpoint. He has 3 out of 9 championship attempts. Is that what he's on?
He has 3 championships.
Out of 9?
He went to 4 straight with the Heat, and then he went to
he had 8 straight in the Eastern Conference and 1
and then the
before
one 3 out of 9. So he's 33% in the finals.
You're not dominating the league. And listen, I recognize, here's my beef with this. I recognize that the Golden State Warriors, that Kevin Durant made it lopsided. That's too many great players on one team, especially with the shooting, right? I get that. I'm not expecting LeBron James to beat that team without having a team that's at least close to as lopsided. At least close. But if you're the best, it don't need to be exactly close. The thing is, but the difference between him and Kevin Durant is relatively small compared to the difference between Michael Jordan and whoever you think was the second best player at that time. Hakeem, Charles Barkley, I don't care. I don't care who you want to say. It's not even close. So I don't think it's close. I don't even think it's the same universe. Whereas there's certain teams that if I switch LeBron and Kevin Durant, it's going to be basically the same result overall. Even though I think LeBron's a better player, but here's the thing with LeBron, because he said he thinks that made him the GOAT. If LeBron had the offensive game that he has now, but he was physically where he was when he was younger, if he didn't take so long to develop the 3-point skill, to develop the polished post game, to develop the quote unquote clutch gene where, he makes aggressive decisions and is the same player or a better player in the fourth quarter rather than less of himself, which he often was when he was physically the best player in the league, maybe we'd be having that discussion, but it's not. So I don't think it's close. I don't think he's close to being a GOAT because I don't think he's close to being as good as Michael Jordan. I really don't. I think Michael's numbers in a much more defensive era, if you put Michael Jordan here today, he'd average something absolutely stupid, like 40, 45 points a game. And I'm not kidding. I think his mentality, if James Harden could score 40 points a night, Mike would probably score 50. I'm not kidding about that. So that having been said, it's about his right to say it. Now, I think he's wrong because it's from a standpoint of you're not dominating the league as a winner, and it's a team sport, and the point is to win. And that's what Kobe said. You got to find a way to get it done. I'm not trying to hear your excuses because I had to find a way to get it done. With no Shaq, no nothing, I had to figure out how to beat all these great teams. You figure out how to beat all these great teams.
Oh, my God. I'm so tired of Kobe.
Hey, fair enough. But it is a team sport, and the whole thing is to dominate. At the end of the day, whatever your reasoning is, whatever you think about what teams were, this, that, the other, on paper, Michael Jordan dominated the league. Once he started winning, it was basically, he took a year off, but 6 straight years of just looking completely unbeatable while they was going through it. Whereas LeBron has lost much more than he's won, and has been, when he wins, when he's been the favorite, he's won. When he's not been the favorite, he hasn't won, except for a series where their best defensive player gets injured. Gets suspended, and their center gets injured. And most people think they wouldn't have beat Golden State if Draymond didn't get suspended and Bogut didn't get hurt. So in terms of his right to say it, what I don't like is all of the old school guys saying, you don't say that. No, it's not you don't say that. It's just if you say that, you got to back it up. One of the great pleasures of being the baddest person on the planet at whatever you do is that if you come out and say that, you challenge everyone else to come at you and prove you wrong. My only problem with it is that every time LeBron James doesn't win a championship, he's been proven wrong.
Okay. Are you done?
I'm finished.
Okay. All right. So here's my thing. It's okay. Several points here. And I'm gonna start off before I get into how I feel about this whole thing. I'm gonna talk about what I disagreed with. Right. So first and foremost, I don't think the gap between Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon was as large as you make it appear to be. Um, Hakeem was just a different dude, and I think that you can look at statistics, you can look at his impact on his teammates, you can look at a lot of things. But Hakeem Olajuwon was the second best player in that era, and I think that Michael was a better player for sure. But I don't think that the gap was 2 days long as you made it appear. That's the first thing. Second thing, I also think you downplayed Scotty a little bit too much on the offensive end. You said Scotty didn't have this sick handle. Well, Scotty didn't have a Kyrie handle in terms of style, but in terms of efficiency and running an offense, Scotty might be the greatest point forward that ever played the game.
I said he was a good system guy.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a system.
I said his offensive skills were great for that system, but people were afraid of Michael.
I think his offense. I think they were afraid of both. Not obviously more Michael, obviously more because Mike is the greatest player, right? So obviously more Michael. But I remember hearing people like Reggie Miller say, Scottie Pippen is the only guy I've ever played against who could dominate the game with 10 points. He said that because in addition to 10 points, he's got 9 rebounds, he's got 9 assists, he's got 4 steals and 3 blocks. And all you feel like while you're on the floor is where is he at? So where is he at defensively? Where is he at in transition? All of those things. So like I admit Mike was the greatest player for sure, right? But Scotty was much more than a system offensive guy and a spectacular defender. Scotty was an absolute complete player who could have and would have excelled in any system because he was just that great. So that's the other thing. The other thing is about it always amazes me that people point to LeBron's finals record and the futility, the 3 of 9, right? But they never point to the years that Michael Jordan didn't even make it to the finals. The Bulls didn't even make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I'm a lifetime Bulls fan. I've loved the Bulls forever. But the Bulls went to 6 finals and they won them all. Absolutely, they won them all. I think it is the greatest 8-year stretch in the past 30 years that we've seen in basketball. But Mike's career with the Bulls started in 84, 85, and it ended in 97, 98. They went to 6 championships during that time. What about the years that Mike didn't get his team that far at all? Okay, so I don't think while three out of 9 is still.
Can I answer that question though?
Yeah,
that was embedded in the description because LeBron James didn't have to get past championship teams to get to the finals. LeBron James was in the much weaker conference for most of his career, and when the conference did have championship contenders, he often didn't make the finals. And the thing is, the way they formed the Heat was to take the best player off of one team in the East, the best player off of another team in the East, and put them on the same team as the best player on another team from the East, which effectively turned 3 contending franchises into 1 contending franchise, which is when LeBron James's final streak started. And the East remained extremely weak until this year, actually. So Michael Jordan was in the reverse situation. Michael Jordan was played out as, well, if LeBron was in the West, he wouldn't be making it every year, which is what most people thought. And
yeah,
that's extremely different.
I don't know that we can definitively say that. I mean, that's what people think or say, but the Boston Celtics were constructed similarly, and they were still together during Miami's early runs. When Miami was battling their way through the East, they were beating Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray
They were
Allen.
old though.
Yeah, but they had just won a championship the year before, 09, 10.
Yeah, but Kevin Durant, I mean Kevin Garnett had already had like a massive knee injury at that point. Like they were old.
That was the year after they won the championship. It was the year after the Celtics win in 09-10, right? Or is that Kobe? No, Kobe. I think
No, Kobe won
Kobe and
last.
Pau Gasol.
Kobe won last.
The
They
year
beat this.
before,
They went to the
08-09.
finals.
08-09, the Celtics win. But what I'm saying is the Celtics have went to the finals, the NBA finals that year before. The next year, LeBron, Miami, Dwayne Wade, Bosh, they beat them. My whole point with that is because I want to get to what he said, but my whole point with that is that I don't think you can't necessarily compare the eras like that with just a complete black and white type of a comparison. You can't say, well, he beat these guys, and so he didn't beat these guys, so this automatically makes Mike's career better.
Well, can I address that for a second? Because I think there are parallels that people are making to justify this. Because to say wins and losses in the playoffs, full stop, no additional information, is not enough for a discussion. But when we get into the specifics of it, when we look at the Michael Jordan teams that didn't make it to the finals and we look at the teams that beat them, most people say, well, he was greatly outmatched in those contests. Undebatably for most of it, that he couldn't have done more. But when you look at LeBron's loss to Dallas in the finals, when you look at LeBron's loss to Orlando, and even his loss to Boston, not that people thought he should have beat Boston, but that because of what is widely speculated as off the court issues, it looked like he gave up against Boston. Even though his stats look good, if you watch the game, he was clearly out of it, as it were. And some people had accused him of quitting. Those were 3 occasions where people felt like he could have done more and didn't do enough to do better. Like nobody holds the San Antonio loss against him because the San Antonio Spurs were a much better team. The first finals loss of LeBron's career. Nobody really holds that against him. Nobody really holds it against him when he lost to Golden State when Kyrie and Kevin Love went down because they were greatly overmatched. So it's not just about wins and losses. It's about when LeBron, and LeBron has said this in the past himself, when he was supposed to be the best player in the league, he didn't hold up his end of the bargain sometimes. And he said one of his greatest regrets is not facing Kobe in the finals because he was in his quote unquote athletic prime on a first place team and didn't manage to get to the finals. And they lost to the Orlando Magic. You know what I'm saying? Who was not a great team. It was just a spotty Eastern Conference. Dwight Howard was the best player on that team, and he was a beast at that time. But who was their second best player?
Jameer Nelson had an outstanding year.
It wasn't outstanding. He had a good year.
He had.
I watched almost every game because I enjoyed watching that team.
If you look at Jameer Nelson's proficiency through that year, I'm talking about as a passer, as a guy who took care of the ball, and as a high level 3-point shooter, he had a phenomenal year that year. I'm talking about a year that across the board translates in every era. I mean, if you got a point guard that shoots over 50% from the field, shoots 45
by the way,
point range, on 4 threes a game.
Wasn't Rayford Alston the point guard that actually played in the finals that year? Wasn't Jameer Nelson hurt for part of that?
I think Jameer Nelson got hurt in part of the postseason. He was hurt for a lot of some of the second half, but he had a fantastic year that year. He had a great year. He made the All-Star team that year. It's the only year he ever made the All-Star team.
How much did he average in the points and assists?
16. He averaged about 17 points, just under 17. 16.7. He averaged 5.4 assists. He shot 45% from 3-point range and 50% from the field and 89% from the free throw line. I'm
gonna let the people decide if that's a good year or an outstanding year.
That
as far as the second best player on a championship level team.
In the context of what they needed from him, he couldn't have played any better because you have a dominant inside guy. The thing that makes you best as a point guard is in that system, in a system that plays inside out, right? So you have to judge him on the same level as you would a John Paxson or a Kenny Smith, a guy who plays the point guard who's not dominating the ball. So that they're not so you can't judge his assist as you would on Steve Nash or Jason Kidd, because his role was different. His role was to knock down open threes, to be efficient with the basketball, and to not, like I said, to not turn it over. To average only 2 turnovers a game as a point guard that year, and 17 points, and to knock down 89% of free throws, 45% of the 3-point shots. That was a phenomenal year. Now he wasn't their next leading scorer. Rashard Lewis averaged 17.7 points a game that year, 40% from three. Hedo Turkoglu averaged 17 a game with about 36% from the free throw line. But if you ask me who the second best player on the team was, because of everything he had to do, I'd say it was Jameer Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just the overall floor game. But I want to get to what LeBron said and what my issue with it is. And then we'll move on to the next thing after that. But I don't think that LeBron is the greatest player, right? I believe that Michael Jordan is still the greatest player to ever live, right? And a lot of it is for some of the reasons that you mentioned. LeBron has had, like, Mike hasn't always been great. He's had bad games. He's had bad games and really bad moments. The Orlando Magic, when he came back, I mean, if you followed everything of Michael Jordan's career, you never saw him look worse than he looked there. But there was a logical excuse that we could give him, right, for that whole situation. So, but this is, to me, not about whether or not you believe whether or not LeBron's the best player of all time, if he's the GOAT. To me, this is about, I don't want to say it's something you just don't say, but I am a proponent of, I don't necessarily have a problem with somebody saying I'm the best ever. But the way it came out was kind of like uncharacteristic of who he is publicly, right? So publicly, LeBron never said stuff like this, right? So now he's at this place in his life, right, where now he's feeling himself to the point that now I can, like if Deion Sanders said that, nobody bats an eye, because Deion was telling you he was the greatest the whole time. He told, I'm the best cover corner ever. And for the most part, most people would believe that. He ain't gonna tackle nobody. But as far as just as a cover corner, I've never seen a cornerback shut down a whole entire side of the field like him. Champ Bailey, maybe. Darryl Green's in the conversation, but Deion Sanders, right? So, but that's hasn't been LeBron's MO. So my problem,
There's part of a reason for that too, though.
Well, here's my problem with it, though. LeBron has gotten to this place, right, in his life where he is looked at such a high level as a human being, right, that now everyone seems to be looking at him as an authority on a variety of subjects. And while I don't want to say your opinion doesn't matter and shut up and dribble, like, I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is sometimes you get to a place where everybody wants your opinion and everybody's listening and hanging on every single word that you say, that it gets to a point where sometimes every little thing that comes to your mind and all the stuff that you want to say doesn't need to be said. Like, LeBron is not the kind of guy who is like, he's got this, he's not a speech giver, he's not an orator, he's not even a fantastic communicator. Okay, he's decent, he's not horrible, but he's not a fantastic communicator. And the thing of it is every time somebody shoves a mic in your face or gives you a platform to talk, doesn't mean you have to start riffing. And I think you just kind of like you know, sometimes people say things and it makes you cringe. It's cringe worthy, right? And there's different levels of cringe, right? Sometimes a person says something, you go, oh geez, dude, really? And then other times you're like, probably shouldn't have said that. This was a moderate cringe for me, because I'm just like, dude, like, so this is who you are now, like, so you this comfortable now, so now you're at this place where I'm
My
big
my
LeBron,
thing with that is
you know.
this. I don't mind people saying anything as long as you understand that sometimes words have consequences. And when it comes to saying that you're the best at something, usually the consequences are you have to be challenged by all the other people that think they the best. And the problem I'm having with him saying this is at this point, your last championship ring is getting kind of dusty.
You know, I think
And
he has every right to feel the way he feels. I don't like, just same as Chris Cyborg, right? Cyborg has every right to create an argument about, about being the best. Now I might not agree with her argument, but she has a right to say it because she's in the conversation,
but
right?
to your point, if she feels that way, then what's she going to do as a result? She's going to take a rematch or a second fight, depending on how it goes with Nunez, and attempt to beat her. Those are
Well,
the consequences of her
she's
thought.
gonna take the fight. It's a matter of, are they gonna give it to her?
Right. Well, I'm saying, and even if they give it to her, or they don't give it to her, because I think she's officially not a agent with the UFC right now. Like I think she's officially a free agent. So,
No,
um,
I don't think it ended. I didn't see that.
yeah, I
I didn't
think
think.
her contract may have ended with this fight because she was going to, I think, possibly win and then re-up for more money. I don't know, but you can look that up.
Yeah.
But either way, even if she fights her again, she's not necessarily going to fight her next. We'll see what they do with that. But either way, the consequences of her actions are to fight Nunez again
Hmm.
and prove it. My thing with LeBron is you prove it by winning, but you have not been winning. You know what I'm saying? And even when you did win in what on paper is a relatively even match series, it's somewhat controversial because of Draymond's suspension and to a lesser extent Andrew Bogut's injury. It wasn't like if he had beat Golden State the year before that, that would have been crazy. Them beating Golden State with Draymond missing the game, they was down 3-1. You know, Kyrie Irving. I'm
Here's the
saying,
thing.
like,
Here's the thing. If
let
you
me
want
just
to say,
finish the point real quick.
yeah,
You had the tools though. You had Kevin Love, you had Kyrie Irving, you had a bunch of 3-point shooters. Like you had defensive guys playing well. Like you had the tools in that matchup to beat that team. You weren't supposed to be this massive underdog to the 73 win Golden State Warriors, particularly if you're the best player in the world. That's the last time you won the championship and you haven't won since. How can you prove the consequences of your words without winning? Like you don't get to say that without winning.
see,
And
I feel
they're not going to win this year. So you're not backing it up.
I don't
Say what you
feel
want, but back it up.
I don't feel like I point to different things to say that LeBron is second. Like I think I agree that he's not the greatest, that with you. And I'm not sure that Kareem isn't second. Actually, I think Kareem is probably second. But I don't. My reasoning for putting him below Mike is different than yours. Mine is based almost entirely on Dallas. Okay. Um, um, and the final year against San Antonio, the final year in Miami against San Antonio. Um, those 2 years to me are more impacting than losing to that Golden State Warriors team. And I'm going to tell you one of the biggest reasons why is because I'm not so sure that if you put Mike on that team with Cleveland and they go against that same Golden State Warriors team, that he doesn't lose too. I'm pretty sure. I think he does. I think he does. So, um, but what I do know is that if you put Mike on the Miami team against
Yeah,
Dallas,
no way.
and if you put Mike on the Miami team against San Antonio, there's no way he loses.
I also think if you put Mike on the Cleveland team against Orlando, he don't lose to no Dwight Howard and Jameer Nelson.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He doesn't. And I think, and I hold that more against LeBron than I do any of these other times, because you know why? LeBron was in his absolute peak at those times.
Yeah.
And you had faltering moments in your peak. And some of them were not even just about, you know, something didn't go right on the floor. Mentally, I don't think he was where he needed to be. Now, some of that has to do, I think, with the fact that LeBron came straight from high school, and LeBron matured later in the NBA, but perhaps at the same time as a man, right? So then that does play a role, but we still gotta look at what it is. You know?
How could I be weak? I'm very unique.